All right, welcome back, baseball fans, to this eliminating the Seattle Mariners video. The Seattle Mariners finished 12 and 21 this year, and it all happened horribly at the end. They were 12 and 15, having one of their best years. They really were progressing about a couple games improvement in the last 3 years. Then this happened at the end. They were 12 and 15. Had they beat the Angels two straight, which we projected them to do, they would have been 14 and 15, and right on the edge of 500 in the playoff race. But then disaster struck. They dropped six straight. Their all-star was John Ellis, 304, with 5 homers and 23 RBI. Look at the Tom Paciorek. He was a Dodger during that timeline. Eventually, he became a Seattle Mariner, a very popular one. 414 and just 658 at-bats. Glenn Adams has a nice card at 314 with a limited sample size. Chris Arnold was okay. Matty Alou was okay. The failures in the offense, Bill North, he did have a 314 on base, which is a 222 average. Did get his 15 stolen bases. And Jerry Morales struggled, and John Vukovic had a 181 card, and he hit 180 with it. So how about that? In the pitching department, Skip Lockwood was an all-star a year ago as a starter. They moved him to the bullpen. He was almost an all-star again, but he tailed off, blew that last game. Rich Folkers was a nice off-season acquisition. They took him away from the St. Louis Cardinals. He did very well. Ross Grimsley, Cincinnati, and Baltimore had no room for him in their rotations. Steve Klein, no room on the Yankees. Dick Woodson, no room on the Twins. And the Royals said, we'll pass on Steve Busby. That's how they got 4 guys who can pitch on 3 days rest. Jerry Bell, quality reliever, but it added up to disappointment. A 4.38 ERA, and 8 of these guys are going to be going away. But let's take a look now and see the 12 guys who are coming back to begin the rubble, to dig out of the rubble yet again. The Seattle Pilots were done. We re-expansioned them. A new team, the Mariners, before the Kingdom was built. They showed some promise, but now they're in trouble. Glenn Adams is coming back. This could be a fine card. A 300 hitter with all that home runs as a designated hitter. He can't field at all. This was him on the Giants before he would go to the Twins. That's a nice card. As is this one, Chris Arnold. You know, a 300 hitter, 296 actually, but a guy who can play catcher, second, and third. Where do you need to play? Where do you need a 300 hitter at? That's good versatility for an expansion team. Al Gallagher, again, expansion, versatility is good, though he doesn't particularly field well with the versatility. And he hits a steady 262 or something, 273. So, all right, here he is, folks. The Strat-O-Matic legend of John Vukovic, where you can find him as a 1 many times. And he'll always hit, nothing. But this is actually one of his best offensive displays. And a high percentage, too. 60% over here with the homer there and the homer there. So this is actually way up. Oh, that's 188, folks. He's normally hitting 125, 161. So, yeah, nice performance against lefties. So, he becomes your third baseman against lefties with power. And you ignore what happens over here. And there's Paciorek. Decent card. Definitely nice against lefties. It's about 280, 290. Power against righties. Doesn't hit righties well yet. He's still a Dodger. But you could probably get out of this card and start getting into a Seattle version fairly soon. Here's Bill North. This was a key player that taken away from the Oakland A's. So if the A's were to fail, you could say, well, you took their spark plug. They changed their spark plugs, and you took out their talented center fielder with blazing speed leadoff guy, -2 AA. Arguably Seattle's best player, but he slumped terribly. He was probably homesick for Oakland. Jerry Morales have a bunch of nice cards in the decade. Not a lot of power. He's sort of a jack of all trades. He's a good defender, good arm, has a little bit of pop. Hits about 260, 270 for you. He hit 281 here. Nice little career for Jerry. And again, yeah, you could improve this card, but actually, I'd hang on to what you got until it's time to improve it. Because he's not going to be a guy who's going to jump off the page and hit 30 homers or 320 anytime soon. He'll never do anything like that, but he'll be an everyday player, or he can be. Here's what's left of the pitching. So Steve Busby is still here, and the Royals didn't want him because of all the walks. You got a 22-game winner here, folks, in Seattle. Doubt he'll win 22 games, but you get the idea. And he's backed up by Ross Grimsley. He won 13 for the Cincinnati Reds before going over to Baltimore. Or, yeah, that was the order, I believe. Skip Pitlock, another lefty. Kind of high ERA. More of a situational lefty there. Here's Rich Folkers. Really had a nice performance. And look at his performance versus right-handed batters. That would be good for any team. This is a trade chip, is one thing Seattle. There would be a lot of playoff contenders who'd love to have a left-handed reliever who gets righties out. And he's not bad against lefties either. So he'd be a nice little trade chip there with his ERA of 3, but it's very opportunistic 3. And here's that great Skip Lockwood card with a sparkling 150 ERA as a relief 4. So you have you got 2 guys here closing out your games. Really, Seattle? I mean, how many games are you going to win? So I put one of those on the trade list. Different seasons, 75 and 74. So teams looking for that particular year. You know, I let them go. Let one of those guys go and get something nice back in return. Well, that's looking at the 12 staying. Now we'll take a peek at the 8 futures of the rest of the Mariners. All right, we're going to take a peek at Baseball Reference and see what the Mariners can do with their 8 Keep, Wave, Retire 72 cards, beginning with Matty Alou. Leadoff man, long time, Pirate, long career, Giant and Pirate. And then he travels, starts putting in his suitcase here. He's on a bunch of different teams in 72. And Seattle's, that makes a good candidate. It really does. When a guy starts to travel a lot, particularly late in his career, we like to move him to an expansion team. He still has some talent. Really exciting performance here in 72. A 281 card, but it played better. Actually, what they did was they used a 314. Is why it played so well. Instead of the 307, they went with a 314 Cardinal performance. So that was opportunistic for Alou, and that's what the Mariners made a trade to get him for that. So 73, now he's on 3 different teams. This is going to be interesting here. But in a full 550 plate appearances, the guy's hitting 295. There's no reason to chase him out and just let Father Time end his career in 74. So I think they're going to bring this card back in 73. Let's see if it exists, though. Has to exist with either the Yankees or Cardinals. Probably the Yankees. So we'll go to the roster sheet, and I think I'm going to go right to the bottom because I think I remember seeing it. Yeah, Matty Alou. Right, he's one of the nameless cards of the 1973 set. So right now, any chip you can get for the Mariners, you should plug in and get. They need every help they can get, whether they keep these guys or end up dealing them in the offseason. So Matty Alou is definitely a keeper. Next up, their all-star catcher, John Ellis. Interesting decade for him. Had some nice years, had some really bad ones as well. Moves around a bit to Cleveland. So he's Yankees, Cleveland, Texas, often a backup. Plate appearances, we just had him have this 144, did great with it. Once he gets full-time rolls, actually 73 with Cleveland's a great full-time roll. 270 hitter, bam, take that. Cleveland's probably going to continue with Ray Fosse or try something else. But right now, he's a quality catcher, and this team needs everything they can get, so they're going to keep him as well. There's no particular allegiance to which franchises you're taking guys away from. Like we said, like John Ellis would be hurting the Cleveland in this case, but Seattle shows no remorse. I mean, their roster and all their expansion team rosters are from all 24 expansion regular Major League teams. All right, next guy, Norm Miller, was a Houston Astro. Had a fun little year with Norm. He had power versus lefties and righties, which is very workable. I think we got him in his most opportunistic year in the most recent draft, which was 72. Yeah, that's the last year. Slugging 393. 73, he's only got 15 at-bats, and 74, he has some more, but yeah, it's time to retire. Norm Miller. So, yeah, you're going to see in all these elimination videos, there's probably going to be a high number of retirements because it's the year of the strike. The DH is kicked in. The 69 expansion, adding all those guys, has finally, it's gone through a 4-year cycle, and now there's going to be a lot of guys who have to be in retirement because they stopped playing baseball or were used so infrequently that Strat-O-Matic didn't print his cards. So the retirement number for the league will probably be up higher than it's been. The idea, of course, is to have exactly 64, so usually wavered players are pushed into the category to get to 64. It might be a case where we actually have 64 or more retirements, and that's something we'll only know as we get around to the playoffs and the World Series, and we finally eliminate all 32 teams. That's when we'll get the final count. Next player, Joe Pepitone. Wow. From 62 to 73. So he's got Yankee and Cubs stats here, with a year in Houston as well. Finishes in Atlanta. But this is the card we just played, the 72 card with the 706 OPS. You know, the 73 combo is very consistent. He's probably not as good defensively, maybe, I'm guessing. 397 slugging goes down to 374. Batting average goes up, and the on base goes up a little bit, but overall comparable. Cub and Brave stats. Well, unfortunately, I hope they combine them because the Brave stats are 364. So if you add them to the Cub stats, you get an even better card. If it's just the Cub stats at 268, that's still very consistent with his 72 season with the Cubs. So let's check the 73 Cubs and see if Joe Pep, they printed his card. So at the Cubs, Pepitone, yeah, we got Beckert, Fanzone, Hickman, Kessinger. Huh, he's not there. Let's check the Cub extra players. Oh my goodness, they didn't make his card in 73? And then Atlanta was the other team. Wouldn't have made it for them. No. No 73 Pepitone card. How many plate appearances is that? Oh, 134 total. Well, that's really disappointing. This is one of the loopholes here that, you know, the reissue will most likely have a Joe Pepitone card for his 73 season. Probably exists. But back in this first edition set, they trimmed a lot, and they didn't make a lot of extra player cards, so they didn't make that one. Right there, you see 73 total between the Cubs and the Braves, and we looked at all alleys there. Atlanta and the Cubs right next to each other. Yep, all their infielders and outfielders, because they could play center field and first base, and all their extra players. And there's no Pepitone there. And then when you scroll down here, he's not one of the nameless cards. Well, that is a very disappointing retirement we have to go into. Wasn't counting on that for Seattle. So now they have 2 and 2. Next up, Danny Thompson. I know he's a keeper because he has a good 1975. We almost took that card in the draft this past year. We stuck with the 72 card. Danny Thompson tragically passes away in the off season. December 10, 76. He would have been 29 years old. He was 29, almost 30. That's tragic right there. He just played a season with Texas. But he's got his twin tenure there. We used the 72 card, 158 hits. Nice card. He doesn't have that full-time usage anymore. Look, he's got MVP votes for the 72 Twins. How about that? Would never have guessed that. But 75 is another solid year. 270 and about 384 plate appearances. So we'll keep Danny. More keepers the better. And plus, a team like Seattle might say, I want to keep more of a fringe player than most of the other teams. Next up, Steve Klein. He had a small little window here where he was good for the Yankees. It was a couple years here. 71 and 72. And then beyond that, 73. To get waivers, you have to have a card made for 73. So we'll check that out exclusively for the Yankees. Is there a Yankee Steve Klein card? Not with those pitchers. And we go down here. Not there either. So that means that he can't go on waivers. He has to be retired even though he continues his career, or you keep him for a future year, but there is no future. There's 74. You don't want that either, and you can't get to 77. Tough situation, but you gotta do the retirement there, and that's the game they gotta play. All right, next guy, Dick Woodson, a Twin. He had, these cards we just used for Seattle, these particular players, these were like their best years. They were cherry-picked for the Mariners for success, and they had a little bit of success, but just not nearly enough because the competition is so tough. Look at this year of 72. 272 with a 116 whip. So he went on pitched on 3 days rest. And then beyond that, this card will exist. And it's an okay card. 141 innings for the Twins. They'll make that one. We'll just confirm by looking at Minnesota. There he is. So for now, because they need to keep guys, they're going to keep Woodson. That gives them 4, so that means they at least have 4 guys they can add to their team next year. And if they decide, well, we don't really want to add Dick Woodson, Alou, Ellis, and Thompson seem like locks that they would add. Anyway, the last player is Jerry Bell, another cherry-picked guy with his best year, and a very good one. Short career with the Brewers. And 72 was the year. That's the card we played. We gave him some talent. Wasn't without a lack of trying here. 5-1, 166 ERA, 117 whip. He goes into the rotation next year, and he's okay. He's got a 397 ERA in 25 starts in 31 games, 138 whip. Yeah, I think at this point, it's about figuring out 5 and 3. Yeah, so you want to put nobody on waivers until you see what the cards look like. Whatever the Strat cards look like will dictate who you put on waivers or not. But right now, I would go with 5 keepers, nobody on waivers, and 3 guys in retirement. In the off season, you can trade a retired player for a waivered player without losing compensation. Teams do that all the time. Because there will be teams out there who are waiving 3 guys because they have Strat cards and they have no retirements, and so teams balance their books in the second column and the third column. The most critical column is this. This is the guys you're going to put on your team. So there's 5 guys they're considering. It can only be 4, and it'll probably take a lot of trading in the off season for Seattle to hash it down to the right look for their future. All right, that's it. Thanks for checking out this analysis, eliminating the Seattle Mariners, and we'll see you next time.